situation in Syria took another turn for the worse yesterday. The dictator Bashar Assad sent ground forces into the city of Homs to, quote, cleanse a neighborhood that is controlled by rebels. Homs has been blasted by rockets and mortars for 3.5 weeks. The Assad regime seems determined to wipe out the year-old freedom movement, and Homs is the front line. Yesterday at the United Nations, former UN Chief Kofi Annan met with Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and announced he will go to the Mideast very soon to help find a peaceful solution. Annan was asked if his previous meetings with Assad would help give him an edge in negotiating with Assad.
Time will tell. We haven't been in touch for a couple of years, and so I will not presume anything. We will make the demarches and time will tell. But I would plead with him that he should engage, not only with me, but with the process that we are launching today.
Joining me now to discuss the situation in Syria, as well as some other international developments, is Foreign Affairs Analyst Pamela Falk. Thanks for being with us.
Good to be here, Betty.
All right, so Kofi Annan's visit to the region, is that going to do much? I mean, what progress are you expecting from that?
Well, one would hope. It is a difficult job. It's a challenge, as he called it. And the idea here is to have him talk to the government. And that's part of the problem. The Assad regime just yesterday said no to the humanitarian chief even visiting, and that was Valerie Amos. So it's going to be tough, but the hope would be he can move forward the Arab League proposal. But the Arab League proposal asks Assad to step down. So that's going to be the toughest part in them allowing him in, and even if he gets in, allowing him some kind of access to try to change the process.
Well, and it's not just him. Isn't he going with the UN Arab League envoy as well, trying to get in that way?
Well, from New York, in New York, he meets with the Syrian ambassador. Then he goes to Cairo and meets with the Arab League head. And then he will also try to have other meetings in the Middle East and then go to Damascus. And he said he thought he would go to Damascus fairly soon. So the idea is get there. At the same time that all of this is going on, the UN, the France, the UK, and the US are negotiating a new resolution to try to get humanitarian access for food and medicine in. But and that may very well get Russian and Chinese support. But how do you get the food in? Right now, they're not giving UN access, and that's the problem.
Oh, and there's a lot of problems here because as all that is going on, there are also reports that the Syrian government is going in possibly with a full-scale ground invasion in the city of Homs. I mean, that's going to just devastate that particular area and the people living there, isn't it?
Right, absolutely. And as Secretary of State Clinton said, there are crimes against humanity being committed, or at least there seem to be. And the European Union, many diplomats today said they will prosecute them to the full extent of the law. The real question is how to get them to stop. The Russians have been giving him arms. The Russians are supporting him. The Russians have $10 billion worth of aid and investment in Syria. So it's become almost a sphere of influence issue. And that's the problem with trying to get Russia to stop arming the government against these poor civilians. The UN now counts 7,500 civilians dead, and it goes up every day. So it's brutal. It's unbelievably cruel, and it doesn't seem to be an end in sight.
Well, so what can be done on the U.S.'s standpoint? Because as you mentioned, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said that Assad could be possibly tried as a war criminal. But besides saying that, what tangible can be done about this?
Well, her point was don't try him now because you want to give them an exit route. And that's always a tricky piece of business. At least make sure that you've tried to get him to step down, as Salah did in Yemen. But short of getting him to step down and realizing it's just a matter of time because his entire population is turned against him, there's probably not much. And it's just awful. So many Arab countries, including Saudi Arabia and Qatar, want to arm the rebels. And that's the debate that's going on.
I want to get to North Korea because it is said that it would suspend its nuclear activities if the U.S. provides it with food aid. Is
Right.
this a sign that North Korea is willing to work with the global body here?
Well, this is a better news story. There is some light in this tunnel. It's not 100% sure that they won't back down from it. They've done it several times before. This is a continuity in a sense because Kim Jong-il set this up before he died. And Kim Jong-un, his son, is trying to get it forward. I think it's much more of the next generation wants to end the isolation. They look to the south. They see incredible prosperity in South Korea, and they want back into the world system. So this is one little baby step in that direction. They're only agreeing to a moratorium on the missiles and a suspension of the uranium enrichment. But I think it's a good sign, and it's certainly an achievement for the Obama administration.
All right, Pamela Falk, as always, we appreciate your insight. Thanks for being with us.
Absolutely, Betty.